is it wrong to make money off of being a Christian YouTuber? So we as Christians, we kind of find ourselves in this awkward position, like a rock between a hard place, where there are people who are very much a YouTuber's YouTuber, in the sense that they monetize their channel, they openly talk about things like Patreon and having people join with recurring payments. They have merch, they have all these things that traditional YouTubers just do. And then you have people on the other side who almost feel embarrassed asking for money. And I don't have anything wrong with people who just want to make videos and preach the gospel, but it kind of like begs the question, is it wrong to monetize our faith? Like, it's kind of a multifaceted conversation, because you have people who abuse these things. Like, you have people who abuse Christianity and people who get duped into spending their life savings because they're manipulated into giving based on this powerful figure that is God's mouthpiece, so to speak. And it gives a reproach against us. It gives a reproach against the church of God, against God's people. Like, is it a grift? Are we grifting when we monetize our faith? Let's talk about it. Look, I think unanimously, people who are of discerning, strong faith, who, have hold orthodox views of Christianity, we detest things like the prosperity gospel, because it is antithetical to the gospel itself. People like Kenneth Copeland and Joel Osteen are wolves in sheep's clothing. This shouldn't be that controversial. Of course, if you like them, that's a major problem. But for the rest of us, we easily can understand, and even people who are not Christian understand this. These people are the grifters of the grift. These people are actively trying to manipulate and scam people out of money. And clearly and obviously that is wrong, and that is condemned by God. And they will have to face God on Judgment Day for their selfishness. We know this is wrong to do. We know it's wrong to manipulate people into giving their money to church. That's wrong. That's wrong, obviously. Hopefully you agree with that if you're a professing believer. And look, and this is not controversial if you read the Bible. Jesus is also against this. Let's just take a look at the story of Jesus in the temple. All right, this passage is found in the book of John, chapter 2. Jesus clears the temple. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration, so Jesus went to Jerusalem. In the temple area, he saw merchants selling cattle, sheep, and doves for sacrifices. He also saw dealers at tables exchanging foreign money. Jesus made a whip from some ropes and chased them all out of the temple. He drove the sheep and cattle, scattered the money changers' coins over the floor, turned over their tables. Then, going to the people who sold doves, he told them, "Get these things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace." Then his disciples remembered his prophecy from the scriptures. "Passion for God's house will consume me." These people were clearly exploiting those that traveled to Jerusalem. They're exploiting people, and especially they're exploiting the poor people. And God constantly is watching out for those who are in need. Actually, if you turn to Deuteronomy 14, you can actually see the heart of God. Deuteronomy 14, 23 through 26. You can read it in your own time. Essentially, we're saying if you cannot carry the tithe all the way, then take that money and spend it on whatever you please and do it for the Lord. Just read the passage. But you see God's heart, that it's never to crush people. It's never to take advantage of people. And that's clearly what they were doing in the temple, which is why God was so angry, and rightfully so. So it is wrong to exploit people for gain. So I think it'd be easy for some people to misunderstand that and say, oh, well, any money making that comes from preaching or teaching or anything like that, then that's not okay to do. Because look, making my house a den of thieves. Look, you're a thief because you're asking for money. So let's actually turn to the book of Timothy, 1 Timothy 5. And this is what Paul says. It says, "Let the elders who rule well be considered worthy of double honor, especially those who labor in preaching and teaching. For the scripture says, you shall not muzzle an ox when it treads out the grain, and the laborer deserves his wages." The whole context of the previous 16 verses is talking about taking care of the widows financially. So now if we extend that same context into and continuing to see what Paul is saying, is that those who labor for Christ, they deserve their wage. And I think the importance here is this person should not be out for monetary gain. They shouldn't be coveting a lifestyle of exorbitant means. I think the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. So that's something we have to watch as believers. Two, we have to really analyze within our hearts, what is the purpose of making content? Is it to go viral? Is it to be making money? Because it's easy to make viral content. Just repost some clips from some of the most popular preachers on. But there's tons of pastors that if you just post and show them in the thumbnail, they go make it viral. It's easy to quote unquote grift Christian content. There are people's entire channels, it's just devoted to John MacArthur clips. And look, I'm not hating it. I've watched some of those channels myself. It's nice to see just clips taken from sermons. That's great, So I'm not hating on people that do that. What I mean to say is, it's easy to curate content for the sole purpose and sole reason of monetizing it and making lots of money because you're coveting a lifestyle that is ungodly, coveting a lifestyle of cars and houses and everything else. And it's important to know that God does see and know our hearts, but we have to see, what does God want for my life? And if God wants to have a thorn in my flesh, then so be it. Is having lots of money wrong? The short answer, no. There were rich supporters. There were rich Christian supporters in the book of Acts, and you see them supporting Paul and his mission. So those people who are wealthy, they're actually supporting the spreading of the gospel. Just keep that in mind. I think really here's the problem that we kind of face. We're so burned and stained by all the people who actually are grifting and taking advantage of people. Like, there's Instagram accounts like Preacher Sneakers. Have you guys seen that stuff? It's on Instagram. And what they do is they're essentially exposing how expensive these sneakers and clothing and all these things that celebrity pastors wear. And it's actually disgusting, and it's a major reproach against them because they have the appearance of evil, which is they're wearing these thousands of dollars worth of sneakers and thousands of dollars worth of pants and shirts. And it's not just like, oh, they had one pair, they treated themselves once. It's like, one, you're going to the Lord's house and you're showing off wealth like that? That doesn't sicken you to do that? But here's the problem. Being rich is not immoral. It's not immoral to be rich, nor is it inherently moral to be poor. It doesn't make you a better person or more righteous to have no money. And it doesn't make you immoral or unrighteous to have money. We see people who are in poverty as victims, and we see people who are wealthy, and you see them and you see, no, they only stole and they killed to get what they wanted. Look, there are people who are poor and in need that are victims, and there are rich people who are wealthy that have killed and stolen to get where they were. But you can't just broadly apply that. I think that's wrong either way. Actually, the Bible speaks against this kind of behavior. It's actually in James 2. It's called Warning Against Prejudice. You can read it, but what James is saying is that it is wrong to tell a poor person, yeah, you sit over there, while then telling the rich person, oh, here, let's get the red carpet out. Oh no, no, that's wrong. It's wrong to mistreat someone who's poor because someone is wealthy because you can because you can take advantage of them. That's wrong. And also, logically, it's wrong to mistreat someone who's rich and lift up the poor as like, oh, you poor little thing. You have never done anything wrong. It's both wrong, all right? A quick example. If you look at the book of Job, it's 42 chapters. It's really long. It's really beautiful. It's something that actually spoke deeply to me when I was going through my really trying time in my life. But look at the character of Job. Job was wealthy. Job was wealthier than almost anyone in his land. But look at the character that Job had. Is that he feared God and stayed away from evil. He owned 7,000 sheep, and it goes to list on all the thousands and thousands of livestock that he had, but also the blessing that he was to everyone around him and the wisdom he gave to people. That's someone you should desire to be. And that kind of leads me to my next point. Dave Ramsey, he's a very famous financial personality. He's professing believer, and this is something that this is kind of a tenet that he lives by, and this is why he believes so much in people taking control of their own finances. Let's just watch it real quick.
If those of you that are a little bit new don't know what that means, around here we've been saying for about 20 years, if you will live like no one else later, you can live and give like no one else.
This is his most famous, iconic quote, really, that most people know him from. What that means is, if you implement financial competence, if you implement self-control, all these things are godly and biblical and wise, then you can live a life to be a blessing to others around you. And that's what you see in the character of Job. Job was that man who had stewarded his things. He had amounted such a wealth. And this is the kind of the core of it. Money is not the root of all evil. You know what is the root of evil? Pride. So let's just read this. 1 Timothy 6, 9 through 10. Let's read it carefully. But those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and many foolish and harmful desires which plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all sorts of evil. And some by longing for it have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Let these words humble you. If you're a Christian content creator, if you desire to be, I pray that you really search your heart. You really humble yourself. That if you are pursuing spreading the gospel digitally, which is an incredible thing to do, and honestly, more people should be doing it. And if you want to make this your living, which there's nothing wrong with making a living spreading the gospel online, just as there is nothing wrong with making a living spreading the gospel in person, you have to get these things straight. Do not pursue the money. Don't let that be your motivator. What is your motivator behind your content? Is it to have a career? Is it to just work from home? Is it to provide for your family? Is it to give your family a better life? Is it for the glory of God? Now, these aren't all mutually exclusive. You can want to do these things for the glory of God and also provide a good life for your family. They don't have to be one or the other. But I pray that God humbles us and keeps us close to his side in pursuit of these things. Because above all, our pursuit should be to honor Christ above all things. So let's pursue him in spirit and truth. All right, so that's some of my thoughts about monetizing your faith. It's a weird subject, I can always make a follow-up video to this. What are your thoughts on monetizing Christianity, so to speak? All right, I pray that God blesses you, and have a great week, guys. God bless.